Hey, and welcome to this week's episode of The Influence Gap. And do we have a treat for you? We're going to have a conversation today with the amazing Valorie Kondos Field. And Valorie, for 29 years, was the head coach of UCLA's gymnastics team. Not only that, she won 7 NCAA team championships. She was 4 times Coach of the Year. She was voted Coach of the Century for the Pac-12, and she's been inducted into UCLA's Hall of Fame. If that is not enough, she has a TED Talk that has over 6 million views and counting. And the topic of the TED Talk is why winning does not equal success, which I totally agree with her. And she is also a breast cancer survivor. We are going to dive into some really meaty parts of a conversation today around leadership, tying it to business, tying it to sport, tying it to failure, tying it to vulnerability, but most importantly, tying it to what is important to Valerie's level of success, and that is putting people over performance. So let's get cracking and dive into this week's conversation. Hey, this is Bernadette McClelland, and welcome to The Influence Gap. This is the show where leaders come to close the gap between intention and impact so that they can have the right conversations, make the right decisions, and achieve the results that matter the most. Valorie Kondos Field, welcome to The Influence Gap. I have been so looking forward to this conversation for a few weeks now.
Yes, have I. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Now, we met a number of months ago now in what this ignorant Aussie thought was Arkansas, in Arkansas. And it was beautiful. And we met over a glass of wine and a piece of pizza. And
Yes.
we had the best conversation. And I also met your husband, Bobby.
hmm Yes.
And I
I
wanted,
don't know if I think that you and I spoke, we were at a dinner and I don't know if we stopped talking. You and I the whole time. Like we sat next to each other. It was like, oh, okay.
I don't think we did because I remember Bobby saying both of us were Spitfires.
Right. Right.
Now, I want to give Bobby a little bit of
Okay.
a spotlight here for a moment
Okay.
because he's just he's just I don't know, he just kind of he landed on me that night, and he's just such a lovely man, and he professionally as well. And I mean, we've just heard your accolades, but Bobby was also for, was it 22 years? He was UCLA Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
He was
Coach,
coach.
coach and senior associate administrator. Yeah, he did it all.
Unbelievable. But both of you were the first couple,
hmm
first married couple to
hmm
be inducted into the UCLA Athletics Hall of Fame.
Yep. Crazy.
So
hmm
the family that coached together stays.
We did. And when he was still coaching and I was coaching, it was so funny the differences between football players and gymnasts, and coaching guys and coaching girls. And it's like I remember the first week or so we were married, and he's making recruiting calls, and I'm making recruiting calls, and he's making about 5 recruiting calls in 10 minutes, and I'm still on one
One
recruiting
call.
call 45 minutes because girls want to talk. They want to talk about everything.
We do. We do.
Yeah. And he said the boys were like, the 15, 16-year-olds that he's making recruiting calls to. How are you doing? Good. How's football? Good.
Grunt.
How's school? Good. Great. Talk to you next week. Boom. Yeah.
Get straight to the point. Now, with all of your, this is really interesting. This is a really interesting part of the conversation I want to have with you, because with all of the 29 years, I think it was 29 years you were
hmm
coaching
Yes.
in the field of gymnastics,
Yes.
you have never done gymnastics.
No.
So what was that moment where you decided that you were going to go down that lane?
Um, I love that question because it's something that I'm speaking to a lot these days. Because I've had a lot of people say, how did you even get to UCLA? And
Uh,
I'd never connected those dots. And I grew up a ballerina, but I wanted to be a gymnast. I remember being 14 years old and telling my parents, I'm going to go to UCLA on a full ride scholarship. And my mom said, honey, you don't do sports. And I remember I remember going like, why is she being so mean? Like, I'm going to go to UCLA on a full ride scholarship. Well, 8 years later, I did not go to college. I was dancing ballet professionally. I was in Washington, D.C., and a dancer was putting on her pointe shoes, getting ready for class. And she said, I heard UCLA needs a dance coach for their gymnastics team. And I went, so with that, I love telling the story because it speaks to courage and it speaks to silencing the noise of negativity in our heads. Without any hesitation, I found out who the head coach was. I picked up the phone, I gave him my credentials, and I'll never forget Bernadette when he said, I am so sorry. I don't have any money for this position. But if you've not gone to college, I can give you a full ride scholarship,
oh,
just like we do our student athletes.
there you go. There you
The
go.
power of
Contagious.
dreaming with clarity, the power of putting it out in the universe, and the power of summoning the courage to step through the door when the universe goes, okay, I'm going to open the door for you. Now let's see what you got.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect time for me to show your book, Life is Short, What Don't Wait to Dance.
Yes.
And so don't
Yes.
wait to dance. It's just like open the door and just you don't know what's around the next
Yes.
corner. Just
Yes.
open that door. And
Yes.
so I love that story. And I've highlighted so many passages in this book with, red
Thank you.
highlight pen. It's a great read. I mean, I love
Thank
a
you.
story anyway, but there are so many leadership messages in that. And with that move, that transition or evolution or pivot or call it whatever you want to, leaders today are being asked, well, they're being asked to do more with less to start with, but there's also leaders out there that are in that same boat where they want to do something like you wanted to do that. And maybe the opportunity's there, but they've never done it before. They don't have the skills. They're second guessing themselves. Imposter syndrome is really big. I mean, we all know that. So, what did you learn from stepping out and actually saying yes regardless?
I think I learned that on stage, growing up on stage, because
Mm,
I made plenty of mistakes on stage. And you learn how to finish. You learn how to, like, I was had a solo one time. I fell flat on my bum in the middle of 10 spotlights on me. And I remember thinking, I can walk off stage, I can ask them to pull down the curtain, or I can take a breath and stand up and finish.
hmm.
And I stood up and finished. And it's the only time in my career I got a standing ovation
Interesting.
because I was relatable. And so anyway, I attribute a lot to that because my student athletes will say, don't you get nervous when you speak on stage? I'm like, God, no, that's where I'm at my most comfortable because I've screwed up so many times on stage. And I realize it's not fatal.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
pick yourself up, take a breath, and take that next right step. But what you said about leaders possibly not having the skills, think about this. I became the head coach of UCLA Gymnastics, and I've never done or
Mm,
taught a cartwheel.
exactly.
And
That's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
right. And yet I figured it out. And somebody asked me this question enough times that when I was hired, the athletic director called me in her office. We called her the ice queen. So she was the opposite of warm and fuzzy. And she said, we're going to make with our change with our head coach. We would like for you to be the new head coach. And I laughed out loud and I said, do I have to remind you, I don't know the first thing about gymnastics. And she looked at me with that ice queen stare and said, I trust you'll figure it out. And it wasn't until years later when I kept making mistake after mistake, after, like we were not, our trajectory was not like this. It was like that. that I that statement of hers resonated, and that word trust
Mm.
became bold. She said, I trust you will figure it out, which meant even though I haven't uncovered everything that I had inside of me to be a strong leader of young women, to lead a program, to be the CEO of a massive athletic program, I had it inside of me. And she trusted. And I remember thinking, well, if she trusts me, I need to trust myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I need to give myself grace when I've made mistakes and look at them and understand that they are opportunities for growth because I've learned what didn't work. So let's not do that
Yeah.
again. Let's do something else.
Yeah, because it's such a cliche when people say, just say yes and figure it out how, later, or build the plane as it's not taking on
Right,
the runway. They're just such cliches that it's almost like, well, gosh, everyone says that, I should know how to do it. Or,
right.
and then you beat yourself up for not. And I think that's what a lot of leaders do. But I think I read in your book that you described as part of that whole leadership journey, um, described going into like the dark night of the soul
Mhm,
when you were trying to figure out what your leadership style
mhm,
actually
mhm.
was. And what did you find that you were doing that meant that you weren't showing up as you?
Great question. I did something that I feel a lot of first time leaders do, pretended to have all the answers.
Yeah, yeah.
Because as I stood in front of 30 people, the student athletes and the staff and all that, I had to have all the answers. And so I postured,
Mm,
or talk about imposter syndrome, instead of which I learned later on, much later on. A leader's number one job is to model the behavior you want to instill in those whom you are leading. So you don't want one of your employees showing up as a know-it-all, having all the answers and not listening to anyone else. You want a collaborative employee. You want someone that can admit their mistakes and not beat themselves up. You want somebody that can apologize
mm,
sincerely again and not beat themselves up and say, you know what, I learned a lot from this. It's not going to happen again. What's our next best step forward? Modeling that behavior is the key to being a strong leader. And I have never been a parent. I never
mhm.
had biological children and or foster children. I've just been a coach. And I have so much respect for parents because that is the most daunting leadership responsibility you can have because you are on 100% of the time. As a parent, as a leader, as a boss, everything you say, everything you don't say, everything you do, everything you don't do is being taken in as well, the model of the
Mm,
behavior.
yeah,
So I see it now. I see parents that are complaining to their children to get off their phones and they're on their phones.
yeah, yeah,
Like, how
yeah,
I see grandparents. One of my best girlfriends is, we're talking about the horribleness of being on screen time so much, and yet the first thing she does is she takes her iPad into bed with her granddaughter in the morning because that's their special time.
yeah, yeah. You're spot on. And this modeling, part of this is this transparency, this vulnerability, this awareness of, or self-awareness, I guess, of we are all in this together. And and within the world of, business and sales, where the number is the number one thing driving everything, I think you
Yes,
you could probably relate that part of it to
yes,
gymnastics, to
yes,
the actual performance of the
yes.
team. And I know, the correlation is there between a sales leader and a gymnastics coach. You've
Mhm.
got the sales team getting the number and the gymnastics coach with the gymnasts performing. So when someone wasn't performing in your field, over and above the skill of the gymnast, what else were you noticing that wasn't happening or that maybe was happening that was contributing to a lack of performance?
hmm One thing that I was forced to do that we have now learned, and anybody that studies leadership knows this is like leadership 101, to ask questions
Mm,
and then to shut up and listen. Well, because I didn't know how to correct their mistakes, I had to ask them. And so, for example, if an athlete fell off a beam and I would go get we filmed everything. So I would get the iPad and I'd say, she'd say, why did I fall? And I say, I don't know. And I'd show it to her. And if I sensed any sense of a disconnect, that was my cue to say, what else? What else is going on?
mm,
What was going on in your head
mm,
before you were doing the routine? And when you can give someone the space to know that they're being heard as a human and
mm,
not as a commodity to help you win, in the business world, not for their KPIs,
mm,
in my world, not for their scores. But I ask a question about, okay, what were you thinking before you go? What could you think that's better? And almost almost every single time the mistakes come from negative self-talk. My boyfriend broke up with me last night. I can't stop
mhm.
thinking about it. Has nothing to do with gymnastics.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And when we're
Yeah.
talking about the business world, if I was in if I was in a business world, I would bring up the KPIs and I'd put all that and all the analytics and all the stats up on the board because that's the fun part. That's the competitive part. That's the winning, right? But the secret sauce is the value that that I feel I did a really good job of helping every single one of our athletes understand their value, what they brought to the team,
Mm.
especially those who were not competing.
Mm.
Because if you're not competing, you're not contributing scores to your team. But
Yeah.
the value that you brought was, her name is Sarah Taubman. And I had this conversation with her many times. Her enthusiasm every single morning for practice, her appreciation and gratitude for being there, her hard work, her ethic, the whole bit, her industriousness to figure stuff out that our superstars could do in their sleep. That resilience, appreciation, gratitude, the superstar said she was the most influential person on the team.
There you go. There you go.
S-
And yeah, yeah, sorry.
No, yeah.
And it is giving, you're right, the KPIs will always be there. Giving the team or giving the
Mhm,
individual the space
mhm,
and giving of yourself
mhm,
and of your time to create that psychologically safe environment
mhm,
where they can bring to the table whatever is happening over and above it. And so
mhm,
I'm really big. I mean, in what I do as well is yes, you've got to coach the deal. And yes, that's where, sales leaders today think that they're coaching. And they'll sit there and they'll say, well, where are you up to with the deal? And what milestone are we hitting? And where is it on the, and how can I help you with your behavior? And how can I help you with the client? So all of that's happening. And that's a form of coaching. Yes, I'm not going to take that away from them, but that's coaching the deal.
right.
What you said is coaching the human.
Human.
And that coaching the human is something that a lot of leaders haven't been exposed to. And it's the giving of the space. It's a certain style, different styles of questions that actually get underneath because it is about breaking up with the boyfriend. And it is about, the the dog ran away this morning before breakfast. And it's all of those things that trigger
Mhm,
the emotional state, that
mhm,
impact. So we all know that at a cognitive level,
mhm,
but it's the ability for, I think, for leaders to actually tap into who do I want to be as a leader versus what am I doing
mhm,
in the leadership role.
mhm,
So I think you're spot on with that. But you also said something earlier where you said asking questions. So leaders asking questions. Um, I've experienced um, leaders leaders above the sales leader, like a higher level again, saying they don't need help. I've hired them to do that job. So they won't need mentors, or they won't need anybody else. Their job is to coach the others because I hired them to do that. So the middle manager is frightened to ask for help because of the expectations on them. So there's this need, almost this need that we probably all have, but leaders, I think, also specifically have, and that is this need to really be enough. Do you see that?
Yes. Yeah. And it's, I see that in the athletic world where first time head coaches, they may be great athletes. They don't know anything about leading, like leadership, motivating human beings. Like in the world of, why does somebody need a coach? You need a coach to help you do something you can't do on your own. And there are different ways to do that. And so when you say you focus on if we focus on the wins, that's transactional. It's very easy. That's, I think, one reason why so many leaders, coaches fall back to being transactional coach. Just do it because I said so.
Yep.
Okay. If you do this, okay, just go do that. And then they look at film, and then they analyze the film, and then they go back and they're transactional again. And without understanding that you're not dealing with a robot, you're dealing with a human. And if you nurture the whole person, not just
Yeah.
the person that you hired to do the job,
Mm-hmm.
but the whole person, you're going to have a better result. Your company is going to make more money in a shorter period of time because the effort that they're putting into their job is different
Yeah.
than just being a compliant, good little soldier.
I agree. And it really is identity based.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is identity based, whether it's sport or whether it's, business or whatever. So this, I think also that, this ties into anybody asking for help. Put your hand up to say, and that's the vulnerability coming back again. And I think with AI, the way it's coming in and all the rest of it, I think more and more people are going to need to be asking for help as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a story that you told over dinner, and I know it's in your book. It was the story with Bobby and with Coach Wooden
Yes.
about the art of the ask.
Yes.
That
Yes.
was an awesome story. Do you want to share that?
Yes.
Because there's such a lesson in that.
Yes. My husband knew Coach Wooden for 15 years before Bobby and I got married. I did not know Coach Wooden when I started working at UCLA. And so we get married, and I asked Bobby to invite Coach Wooden over for dinner. And I figured Coach Wooden grew up farming in Martinsville, Indiana. My husband grew up sharecropping in the panhandle of Texas. They can talk about farming, who cares, whatever. So I said, Bobby, I'd love to have Coach Wooden over for dinner. And he says to me, I have to do the Southern accent. He said, my love, Coach, I've seen Coach Wooden's calendar. He has so many obligations on his calendar. The last thing he needs is another obligation. I said, he can say no. And so for 3 weeks straight, Bobby would come home. Did you ask Coach Wooden? My love, Coach Wooden has something like, okay, well, I was a very good wife because I just kept, as he says, nagging. So finally, one day he came home and he said, he called Coach Wooden and gave Coach Wooden all the reasons why we would understand if he would say no. And Coach Wooden said, Bobby, I don't mean to interrupt you, but are you inviting me over for dinner, or are you giving me every reason that you would like me not to come? And so Coach Wooden came. He stayed. We had dinner at 5:30 because he was 80 something years old. He stayed till 11:30 at night. And that started a relationship. Coach Wooden became my mentor. He was like a father figure. I would go over and hang out at his house, and Bobby would be coaching, and we'd watch football. Coach Wooden came to every gymnastics meet. He'd come over to dinner all the time. And whenever Bobby tells that story and says, I was nagging, and I say, you're welcome. You are welcome because, yeah. But the art of the ask is, yes, to be respectful of the person's time, but not to be so is it subsequious, where you're just like gushing over with it's okay, you don't have to come, it's all right, I
Yeah.
understand you're busy, blah blah blah, but just make the art of the ask. And then if they say no, I'm doing this right now with trying to raise money for a children's organization that I'm very much involved with, and I'm calling Dave Roberts, the general manager of the Dodgers, and I'm calling Pete Carroll, and they're all, not right now. And I go, okay, great. I'm gonna get back to you in about a month or two. Is that good with you? And they go, okay. So then I call them again. I've not gotten a commitment from them, but it's the art of the ask, the art of the nudge.
Yes, that's the other part of it. Yes.
Yes. And knowing when to drop it, because you can
Mm.
always come back to it.
I agree. I agree. And that ties beautifully with how we started this conversation with you stepping out and with UCLA
Mhm.
and the art of the
The
ask.
ask. I
And
made the ask.
yeah.
I called the head coach and said, I have 17 years of classical ballet training and I'm a choreographer. And I
Yeah.
hear you need a dance coach.
And so I think
And
that,
think about this, but Bernadette, think about this. And this is what I'd love to share with younger people. I was at UCLA for 37 years. I've won 7 national championships.
yeah.
I'm in the Athletic Hall of Fame, blah, blah, blah. I now teach a master's course on leadership at UCLA. None of that would have happened had I been too afraid to pick up the phone and make the ask.
And that was one call all those years ago. And the
Right,
ripple effect has not just
right,
impacted you, but it's impacted the world. And this is how you continue to influence others. And now you're looking for sponsorship. What's the
right.
hospital? What's the children's hospital?
It's not a hospital. It's an international children's organization. It is
Oh,
called Kids Alive International.
kids.
And they provide safety, trauma therapy, and legal services for children of domestic sexual abuse.
Oh, wow. That is definitely worth.
And I went to Guatemala, the closest country that they're in, and I saw firsthand, I saw how justice, because they walk with these children through the legal process. Just the tagline for them is justice that heals.
Mm,
And I saw firsthand that when someone is validated as a
yeah.
human, it
Yes.
starts the healing process.
Yes. I
Hmm.
agree. I volunteer down at Colorado State Penitentiary
Hmm.
with their transformational and entrepreneurial program, and the same thing.
Yes.
Validation, healing, second
Yes. And
chances, all of
and
that.
again, listening.
Yes,
Listening to someone.
yes, yes. Conversations matter.
Yeah.
So, okay, how can people connect with you, contribute to that cause?
Great.
Buy your book.
Buy my book. And getting back to what you said, dance is a metaphor
Hmm.
for anything in you that makes your heart sing.
Love.
And life is short. Don't wait
Yeah.
for someone to come knocking on your UCLA did not know who Valorie Kondos was when I was
Yeah.
22 years old in 1982. So don't wait to dance. Don't wait to start living your life fully. And it's scary. And the
Yeah.
scary part is fun. That's the fun part of life. And then you fall down and you go, okay, what I learned from that? Great. And you go at it again. So
And,
yes, you
and
can.
before long, it's just another one, another piece of evidence of your life.
It's information. It
Great
is
data.
information.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
absolute information.
Love it.
And then the children's organization is called Kids Alive International, and
Yes.
they do. I would not be involved with something that was just a billboard.
Hmm.
They really walk their talk. And when I walked onto this campus of 80 young girls that were living there, taken from child services, from the
Yeah.
homes,
Yeah.
all of them sexually abused, I saw and felt so much joy
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and how,
I hear that.
yeah, because they're safe,
Mm.
they're unconditionally loved.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, that will help promote that for you,
Yeah,
Valerie.
thank you.
I love that. I love that. This has been a pleasure. I leave. I'm going to leave before we leave, rather. I
Yeah.
have what I call rapid fire.
Okay.
One,
I suck at rapid fire, so I'm gonna do better this time. I'm gonna get better. Okay.
one word answers, and not many people can count.
Okay.
but here we go.
I'm going to do it. Okay.
Leadership is
Influence.
pressure reveals.
Character.
One mistake leaders make.
Ego.
Great teams are built on.
Relationships.
Influence means.
Love.
I love it.
I did good.
You did real
It's
good.
the first time in my whole life that I actually played by the rules.
Oh, you never play by the rules. I have loved this conversation. I think everyone's going to love listening to your insights. I just want to say a huge thank you.
Thank you.
And influence, is when we can create change in us and around us. That is my definition of influence, and that is what you have definitely done, Valorie Kondos Field.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. To everybody else, bye for now, and we'll see you this time next week.
Bye. Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's episode of The Influence Gap. If this resonated with you, share it with a CEO or a sales leader who you think needs to hear it. And make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss one single episode. If you are ready to close the gap between your message and the impact you want to make, come and find me at BernadetteMcClelland.com. I'll see you this time next week. Bye for now.